She was a single mom drowning in bills, one phone call away from eviction. He was a billionaire no one dared disturb. Until she dialed his number by mistake. What began as a desperate plea for rent help became something neither of them expected. A little girl's innocence, a mother's strength, a man's hidden wounds, and one wrong number that changed 3 lives forever. Stay with us. This story may just change how you see fate. The fiction notice lay in a crumpled heap on the kitchen table, right next to an empty box of macaroni and cheese and a crayon drawing of a house labeled Ours. The edges of the paper were damp from the tears Leah Torres kept wiping away with the back of her sleeve. She had read the words over and over again, but they still felt like a punch. Final notice. Vacate in 72 hours. Outside, the California sun dipped low behind the Oakland skyline, but inside her small apartment, it felt like the end of the world. Leah glanced at her phone, the cracked screen flickering between 5% battery and total darkness. Somewhere in the chaos of junk mail and half-finished art projects, she had found a wrinkled flyer that listed a number for emergency rental assistance. It was an old one, probably a year or 2 outdated, but she had no other options. With trembling fingers, she dialed. The line rang once, then again. "Please," she whispered into the silence. "Come on, come on." The man's voice answered. Deep, calm, measured. "This is Daniel Cross." Leah froze. The name meant nothing to her. "Oh, hi, I thought this was, rental help? I found this flyer. I know it is late, but I need help. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I just need a little help, just for this month. I can pay it back. I will figure it out." Silence. Her heart pounded. Had she just made a fool of herself? "I am sorry," she blurted. "Wrong number. Forget it. I should not have." "Send me the address." His words cut through her spiral. "Your address. Send it to this number." Before she could respond, the call ended. She stared at her phone like it had turned into a grenade. Who the hell was Daniel Cross? She typed the number into a search engine. Nothing came up. No name, no business. Just her own reflection in the phone screen, tear-streaked and stunned. She almost laughed. "Scammer," she muttered. "Probably some weirdo." Still, a small, stubborn part of her typed out the address, just in case. She did not expect a response. She certainly did not expect the knock on her door at 9:32 that night. Through the peephole, she saw a sleek black car idling at the curb, and a man standing on her doorstep in a charcoal coat and leather gloves, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. He looked like he had walked off the cover of a magazine, or stepped out of someone else's life entirely. Her breath caught. She unlocked the door, opened it an inch, and said the only thing she could manage. "Who are you?" He did not smile, he did not blink. "You called me," he said, flashback to 2 weeks earlier. Leah Torres stood behind the front desk of a dental clinic in East Oakland, tapping a cracked pen against her clipboard and pretending to smile at the 7th late patient of the morning. Her ponytail was slightly uneven, her cardigan had a hidden coffee stain, and her eyes carried the kind of tired you cannot fix with sleep. She was 31 years old, beautiful in an easy, girl-knock-door way, with warm brown skin, quick wit, and eyes that rolled instinctively at nonsense. "Next time, try flossing," she chirped as a patient walked out, not realizing her mic was still on. The dental hygienist shot her a look. Leah winked. By 4 o'clock, she was clocked out and racing through traffic on the number 29 bus to pick up her daughter Zoe from after-school care. Zoe was 6, bright, opinionated, and had a vocabulary that confused grown adults. She greeted Leah with a homemade telescope fashioned from cardboard and said, "I discovered Jupiter has moods today." Their apartment was a tiny studio above a laundromat. The window faced a brick wall, and the kitchen was technically just a microwave and a portable stovetop, but Leah had decorated every inch with color. Fairy lights hung from the ceiling, plants crowded the windowsill, and Zoe's drawings wallpapered the bathroom door. Most nights, Leah worked on Etsy orders, hand-painted ceramic mugs with feminist quotes and floral designs. Her tiny online shop had 28 loyal customers, all of whom were currently waiting longer than promised for their deliveries. She painted at the kitchen table, while Zoe did math worksheets beside her, often correcting her own mistakes aloud. Leah whispered under her breath, "How are you smarter than me already?" Zoe shrugged. "My brain eats numbers." Between shipping costs, rent, utilities, and groceries, Leah never quite broke even. She skipped meals so Zoe would not have to. She wore thrifted blouses and made jokes about recycled fashion statements. She dealt with a condescending manager at the clinic who liked to remind her that receptionist jobs were stepping stones for people who finish college. Leah had dropped out of community college when she got pregnant, choosing Zoe over everything else. And she never regretted it, not once. Even when it was hard, even when her phone buzzed with bill reminders, even when she stared at the ceiling, wondering how she would make it another month, Zoe made it all worth it. They had nightly dance parties in pajamas. They made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. They invented bedtime stories together. Once upon a time, Zoe would begin, there was a mom who was also secretly a superhero. Leah would smile and whisper, she just did not know it yet. The knock came just as Leah was about to reheat yesterday's noodles. She froze, sauce-stained fork in hand, staring at the door like it might explode. Another knock, firm, precise, not like the usual jangle of neighbor kids or delivery drivers. She crept to the peephole, heart pounding. A man stood there, tall, motionless, backlit by the street lamp. He wore a charcoal gray coat, the kind you only saw in movies or Wall Street photo shoots. His hands were in leather gloves. His jaw was sharply defined, hair combed back, posture unbending. Something about him radiated stillness and power, like a wolf, waiting in the snow. She cracked the door an inch. "Can I help you?" He tilted his head. "You called me." Leah blinked. What?" "Earlier today," he said, voice smooth and low, "you asked for help." The memory crashed back into her. His voice on the phone, the strange calmness, the way he had said, "Send me the address." You are Daniel Cross?" He nodded once. "Oh my God," she whispered, horrified. No, this is a mistake. I did not mean you cannot be. I thought it was a charity line." He tried to shut the door, cheeks burning, but he gently stopped it with one gloved hand. "Here. I am not here to judge," he said. "I just want to talk, that is all." She hesitated, still gripping the door frame, like it might keep her dignity from crumbling. From behind her, a small voice cut through the tension. "Mommy, who is the man in the superhero coat?" Zoe stood barefoot in pajamas covered in stars, rubbing one eye. She stepped beside Leah and peered up at the stranger. "Are you my mom's friend?" she asked, voice laced with suspicion and curiosity. "Because you look like Batman." Daniel blinked. Then, for the first time in weeks, maybe longer, a faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Not quite," he said, crouching slightly to her level. "But I do have a car that might impress you." Zoe lit up. "Does it have buttons that make it fly?" "Not yet." Leah stared, utterly bewildered. Daniel stood again, his gaze returning to her. "May I come in, just for 5 minutes?" Something in his tone, respectful, calm, not pitying, cut through her fear. She nodded once and stepped aside. He entered quietly, his presence somehow filling the tiny space without overwhelming it. He noticed everything, the cramped layout, the chipped paint, the art on the walls, but he said nothing. Leah offered a chair without thinking. He sat, neatly, precisely. Zoe climbed into her mom's lap, still eyeing him like she was evaluating a character from her bedtime story. Leah finally asked, "Why did you come?" Daniel looked directly at her. "Because you asked, and because not many people do." Leah poured 2 mugs of peppermint tea, trying not to shake. Her hands moved automatically. She had offered something warm out of habit. then cursed herself for not having anything better than mismatched mugs and dollar store tea bags. Daniel Cross. Yes, the Daniel Cross sat at her table like this was normal, like billionaires often dropped by cramped apartments above laundromats. She finally asked the question burning in her throat. "Name is Earl Rover." He looked at her, then at Zoe, who had nestled on the couch with a stuffed dinosaur and was whispering, "Mommy's new friend looks like someone from the news." He took the tea and let it cool between his hands. "I was going to shut down that phone line tonight," he said quietly. "It was my old private business number. I kept it in case of emergencies, but no one calls it anymore. Not since I left public life." "You left public life?" "I stepped back, let others run the show. I work remotely now. I travel quietly. No more conferences, no more press." "And yet, here you are," she said softly. He nodded once. "I was going to press the button, then your voice came through. You sounded like someone I used to know, or maybe someone I could have known if things were different." Leah could not breathe. Something about the way he said it, flat, honest, stripped of performance, made her chest ache. Daniel looked at Zoe. "She reminds me of someone too. Smart, unfiltered." Zoe looked up and declared, "I like peppermint, but not if it is spicy." Daniel smiled again. "Noted." Leah crossed her arms. "So what exactly is this? A one-night pity drop-in? A rich guy with a hero complex?" He looked at her, unflinching. "I grew up in this system. Foster homes, backyards. Shuffled from house to house until I was 18 and aged out. I survived by shutting people out and solving problems faster than anyone else. I made money because I had to. I stayed alone because I did not know how to do anything else." His words were so quiet, they almost evaporated. She said nothing. "I am not here because I feel sorry for you," he added. "I am here because I recognized something in you I have not seen in a long time." "But strength," he said. "Not the kind you put on a motivational poster. The kind you use when no one is watching." Leah stared at the chipped edge of her mug. "And what exactly do you think I need? A check? A lecture on financial literacy?" "No," he said. "Just a conversation. Maybe a second chance, if you want it." Zoe piped up from the couch. "Are you going to be my mom's boss now?" Daniel blinked. "I had not thought about that." Leah laughed in spite of herself. He leaned forward slightly. "May I help? Beyond money, I mean. I have resources, time, knowledge. You asked for help. Maybe I was supposed to answer." And for a long moment the apartment was quiet, except for the sound of rain starting against the window. The next evening Daniel returned. This time Leah had lit a candle to hide the smell of reheated soup and laid out 3 mismatched mugs instead of 2. Zoe had drawn a new picture. Stick figures labeled me, Mommy, and Batman. Daniel chuckled when he saw it. "Art runs in the family." Leah smirked. "Stick figure likeness is a niche skill." He placed a folder on the table. "I want to offer you a job." She stared at it like it might bite. "My company is launching a new wellness platform," he continued. "We are trying to rebuild how people access emotional health services, especially working-class families. We have tech, data, structure, but we are missing the human thread." She raised an eyebrow. "And you think that is me?" "You are a mother, you juggle 2 jobs, you know how it feels to be overlooked, you have empathy most executives cannot fake." "I barely know what UX means," she said flatly. "You know people," he replied. "That is rarer." She flipped open the folder and scanned a job outline full of words like emotional mapping, interface friction, and user trust building. "Sounds like a lot of jargon for talk to people nicely," she muttered. Daniel smiled. "Pretty much. I have no tech background. I have plenty of people with that. What I need is someone real." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "Why me? Why not one of your million consultants with degrees and portfolios and 4,000 followers on LinkedIn? He considered. Because they do not wake up every morning and make pancakes, shaped like animals, while trying to survive on 4 hours of sleep. She blinked, then laughed. Are you spying on me? Zoe entered, holding her dinosaur upside down. Are you giving mommy a job? Daniel nodded. Zoe walked over and squinted at him. I think she should say yes. Leah raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? Yeah, Zoe said seriously. He has good shoes. People with good shoes make good choices. Daniel tilted his head. You might be my new head of hiring. Leah sighed and looked at the offer again. Okay, she said. But one condition. Which is? If I suck at this, you fire me. He gave a small nod. Deal. She reached across the table and shook his hand. Wow, she whispered. I just made a deal with Batman. He smiled. Let us see if Gotham survives. Leah arrived on her first day dressed in clean jeans, a blazer borrowed from her cousin, and the most polished version of herself she could manage. Her hands trembled as she passed through the glass doors of Crosswell HQ, but Zoe's morning pep talk echoed in her mind. Remember, Mommy? Smile like you already know the answers. To her own surprise, she did well. She listened to users, translated complex text speak into emotional insights, and identified subtle gaps no one else noticed. Her presence softened the room. Engineers who once rolled their eyes at UX meetings began waiting for her input. Even the project lead, an intimidating woman named Sandra, started asking her advice on language, tone, and user pathways. Daniel kept his distance professionally but always nodded when they passed. He did not hover or micromanage. But every time she spoke up in meetings, she caught his subtle glance of pride. Then the article came out. Ingle Mon lands tech billionaire gig after wrong number. It went viral in hours. The photo was grainy, taken from across the street as she entered the building with Zoe. The headline was worse than the content, salacious, full of assumptions. They called her Cinderella, a gold digger, an opportunist who cried into a billionaire's voicemail and cashed in. Comment sections exploded. Nice scam, might try it myself. She slept her way into a UX job? Guess poverty is a great resume builder. Of course he saw something in her. Have you seen her smile? Leah tried to ignore it. But the whispers at work started. Some junior staff stopped talking when she entered the kitchen. A few side eyes at the elevator. One intern even asked, quietly, how to network into a 6-figure fairy tale. And then, late one evening, she stayed behind to finish documenting a test flow. As she passed Daniel's office, she heard voices. I am just saying, a man said. It looks bad. A single mother shows up out of nowhere and suddenly she is your lead empathy consultant. Investors are asking questions. Daniel's voice was low. She earned her seat. She is a distraction, the man pressed. Whatever charity project this is, it is blurring your judgment. She is not Crosswell material. She is a headline. Leah froze. She did not wait for Daniel's answer. She walked to her desk, pulled her things together, left her badge on the keyboard, and walked out without saying goodbye. That night, she lay in bed next to Zoe, who was already dreaming, and stared at the ceiling. No tears. Just the quiet ache of something that had almost become real, and was now slipping through her fingers. The week after Leah left Crosswell passed in a blur of dishes, silence, and Zoe's increasingly persistent questions. Is Mr. Batman coming back? No, sweetie. But I miss his stories. Leah would not admit she did too. She did not answer messages. She ignored calls. She deleted every email from Daniel unread. Her world had shrunk to her daughter, her sketchbook, and a bitter taste in her mouth she could not shake. She felt foolish, used, and worst of all, hopeful. That was the cruelest part. Hope had slipped in like light under a closed door, and when it vanished, it left her more hollow than before. Then, one rainy evening, a knock came at the door. Leah peeked through the peephole and froze. "Daniel." She pressed her back against the door, heart pounding. "I am not here to cause trouble," he said gently. "I just wanted to talk." She did not open the door. "You believed them before you believed me," she said. "I never stopped believing in you," he answered. Silence. "You let them say I was a mistake," she added, her voice cracking. "You let them make me feel like I did not belong." "I fought back," he said, "but maybe not loud enough. That was my mistake." Leah wiped at her eyes. "I did not need saving. I needed to be seen." "I did see you," Daniel said, "that first night, before I even knew your name." Still, she did not open the door. Inside, Zoe was quiet, drawing something at the kitchen table. When Leah turned, the girl was gone. Moments later, something slid under the door. A folded napkin in blocky child handwriting. "You made Mommy laugh. She needs that." Leah stared at it. "I did not hire you out of pity," Daniel said softly. "I stayed because you reminded me that life is more than results and algorithms. You reminded me that sometimes the best ideas come from people who have not been told they are brilliant every day." She unlocked the door, but she did not open it. Her voice came quiet through the wood. "If you want to help me, stop trying to fix me." "I never wanted to fix you," he said. "I just wanted to stand beside you." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she whispered, "You hurt me." "I know, but I still believe in the work we did." "So do I." "I am not a charity case, Daniel." "I know that too." Another long pause. Finally, she opened the door. Just a little. And for the first time they saw each other without the noise, without the world shouting in their ears. Two people, flawed, scared, and still standing. 2 weeks later, Sandra from Crosswell reached out with an unusual offer. "We are launching a beta test," she said, "but this time we want real-world voices, not just corporate reviews. We want mothers, caregivers, seniors, people who usually get left behind." Leah was hesitant, but she listened. The platform had evolved. What began as a sleek mental wellness interface was now aiming for empathy, and Sandra wanted Leah to lead a pilot program for a new community-first design initiative. "Not because of press," Sandra assured her, "because you're the only one who can do this with the honesty it needs." Leah agreed. She reached out to local libraries, schools, laundromats, churches, places where people lived their real lives. She brought in immigrant mothers who spoke 3 languages but were never heard, retired teachers with cracked hands and sharp minds, single dads juggling morning drop-offs and graveyard shifts. Zoe was by her side at every meeting, every test session, offering juice boxes and asking the best questions. Why does this button say start if it does not actually start anything? At some point, everyone started calling her Miss Zoe, and no one corrected them. Leah redesigned the tone, color palettes, flow prompts, and user pathways. She advocated for larger text sizes for seniors, culturally inclusive emojis, and optional audio guides for people who were not fluent readers. She told Daniel, "If this app is about feeling better, it needs to speak human, not robot." And he listened. The prototype went live in a closed test group of over 1,000 users. The feedback was immediate and stunning. Engagement doubled, retention tripled. 78% of users said they felt seen. Word spread. Investors, who once raised eyebrows at Leah's resume, started asking for meetings. Daniel forwarded them all to her. "This is your voice," he said. "They need to hear it from you." Leah, in a borrowed suit and sneakers, stood in front of a panel of executives and told them the truth. "I was the person this app forgot. Until now." Applause. When the final dashboard came in, even Sandra was speechless. "You redesigned the core," she whispered. "You did not just improve it, you changed it." Daniel stood at the back of the room, hands folded. He said nothing, but he smiled, in that quiet way he reserved only for Leah and Zoe. The launch day arrived like sunrise after a long storm. Crosswell's auditorium had never looked so alive. Strings of warm lights looped across the ceiling. Community partners, mental health advocates, and tech leaders gathered in anticipation. But for Leah, standing backstage in heels she still was not used to, the moment felt strangely still. Daniel walked onto the stage. He wore a crisp navy suit, but his expression was softer than the audience had ever seen. The crowd quieted. "We talk about disruption," he began, "about innovation, about breaking boundaries." He paused. "But the most valuable thing we built this year started with a wrong number." A ripple of laughter, then silence. That call did not come from a consultant, or an investor, or a resume with accolades. It came from someone desperate, brave, and honest. He turned toward the wings. "Leah Torres, would you join me?" She froze. Zoe tugged her hand. "Go, Mommy, you earned it." Leah stepped onto the stage. The lights were blinding, but the applause was real. Daniel extended his hand, then crouched down and lifted Zoe onto the stage. Flashes exploded. "This," he said, "is the future of empathy in technology." Cameras clicked. Reporters leaned forward, but Leah only saw the pride in Zoe's eyes. Later, as people mingled, job offers began rolling in, speaking invitations, board positions, media profiles. Leah smiled politely but declined most of them. Instead, she focused on creating something else. A mentorship program for struggling single parents trying to enter tech. "Because I know what it feels like to believe no one will open a door," she said at the first meeting. Within months, the program became a beacon. One afternoon, her phone buzzed. It was her former manager from the dental clinic. "Just saw your name in Forbes, would love to catch up, maybe bring you back for a lunch and learn?" Leah replied, "Thank you for the message. I am focused on community work now, wishing you well." Then she deleted the text. She had no bitterness, only clarity. She was finally seen. And more importantly, she saw herself. Carmel Beach was painted in the soft gold of late afternoon. The tide breathed in and out like a lullaby, and the world felt quiet. Leah sat on a blanket, barefoot, hair dancing in the breeze. Her fingers clutched a cup of coffee that had long gone cold, but she made no move to warm it. Daniel sat beside her, sleeves rolled, shoes off, hands buried in the sand like a boy lost in thought. For a man known for commanding rooms and dictating markets, he looked perfectly at peace, doing nothing. Zoe, now 7, was building a crooked sandcastle a few feet away, narrating her design process like a TED Talk. "This tower is earthquake-proof. It also has a candy room, and the queen is allergic to broccoli." Daniel chuckled. Leah leaned her head against his shoulder. "I spent most of my life preparing to be disappointed," she said softly. "It was easier than hoping." Daniel looked at her, his face open in a way few had ever seen. No mask of control, no boardroom poise, just a man who finally found something he could not predict. "Then let me ruin your plans," he said, "permanently." He pulled something from his pocket. Not a ring, a simple house key. On it, a small silver tag engraved with one word, "Ours." Leah stared at it, eyes wide, lips parted in disbelief. "I did not want to ask you with diamonds," he said. "I wanted to ask you with something we could build every day." She blinked, then laughed, then cried. She did not say yes. She said, "Finally." The wedding was small, held in an art garden tucked behind a nonprofit community space in San Francisco. Paper lanterns fluttered above, strung from steel sculptures. Leah wore a vintage cream dress with pockets and red heels. Daniel wore sneakers under his tailored suit, and a single sunflower in his lapel, picked by Zoe. Zoe wore wings. She took her role as flower girl and MC seriously. Her speech stole the show. "Hell is not Batman," she declared, "but he is pretty cool. He gives the best hugs, and he loves my mommy the way she deserves. There was not a dry eye in the garden. Later that night, they danced to a jazz cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. Daniel had no rhythm, but Leah guided him anyway, whispering jokes into his ear while everyone watched them glow. 1 year later, the app had been translated into 11 languages. Leah's mentorship program had helped single mothers in 6 states gain certifications, funding, and job offers. Zoe had invented a breakfast burrito rating system on YouTube called Zoe's Zoom Bites, with over 50,000 followers. Their home was full of color, art, laughter, mess, music. There were post-it notes of ideas on the fridge, Zoe's homework taped to the walls, and a welcome mat that read, "This is us. Come in if you are kind." Leah still teased Daniel when he got too serious. He still paused every time she laughed, like it was a song only he could hear. They walked hand in hand through farmers markets, rainy bookstores, and quiet, sunlit kitchens. It was not perfect. It was better. Because what they built was never luck. It was choice. It was persistence. And it started with a misdialed phone call. And now, they had everything. Not in dollars, but in each other. Sometimes, miracles come dressed as mistakes. A misdialed number. A forgotten flyer. A knock at the door. What began in desperation became a turning point, not just for Leah and Zoe, but for a man who never expected to feel again. Inspired by love, resilience, and the power of a single voice. Did this story touch your heart? We would truly love to read your thoughts in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? Let us know. We read every message, every story you share. And if you believe in the kind of love that surprises you, lifts you, and heals you, do not forget to subscribe for more soul-stirring stories that remind us love finds us in the most unexpected ways.